Hello all, and welcome to the CPCA webcast about quality control and video conferencing. CPCA has produced this webcast to support health centers to ramp up telehealth visits in response to COVID-19. The purpose of this presentation is to provide tips and tricks for offering the highest quality video production to ensure that your image is crisp and clear for the audience, which in this case are your patients receiving virtual care. In this brief pre-recorded presentation, we will review room layout, lighting, audio, and camera angles. So let's get started. Real quick, my name is Ali Boudens, and I am the Assistant Director of Quality Improvement at CPCA. You can reach me anytime at aboudens@cpca.org with any questions or comments. Let's get started with room layout. I realize that folks may not have a lot of options in terms of where you can set up your virtual practice. You may have an office without natural light, or you may not have even an office at all. Don't stress about the layout being perfect. Just make the best use of what you have. First, familiarize yourself with the room. Parts of your space may have lighter and dimmer parts to it, where you can find or make light. Face into that light with the dimness in the background so the light reflects off of you in the camera image. Keep backgrounds simple. This doesn't mean that you have to sit in front of a blank wall. Just be aware of what the background says about you and the image it provides. For example, we often see lawyers or doctors, and they're sitting at their desk with bookshelves and degrees behind them, projecting a sense of competency. That may not be for you. Just know that patients will notice posters and pictures, and you don't want anything too distracting. You want a scene behind you that adds context, but that doesn't compete with you. For blank canvases like walls, know that when you sit immediately in front of a wall, you risk competing with that wall for light reflection. So if you're sitting right in front of a white wall, you're competing with the wall for light, and the wall is going to win. You look darker. If you can, just put some depth behind you and the wall. Lighting. Lighting really makes a difference in the quality of an image. If you're using a webcam or any sort of imaging equipment that's anything less than top of the line, lighting is the thing that it's most sensitive to. And the more you can optimize your lighting, the better you will come across on video. So keep the light bright and diffuse. You want an even amount of diffuse light on you. Generally, you don't want a bunch of bright light shining on you. You want ambient light around, bouncing off of walls and ceilings, and lighting you from every angle. Photographers will tell you that any lights labeled quote-unquote daylight or bright white will tend to have more blue tones that reflect well on camera, rather than bulbs with yellow tints, also known as quote-unquote warm lights. This sounds a little backwards for a calming environment, but for this, you want the brighter lighting. In contrast with what we discussed about lighting, where we want lots of it bouncing everywhere, what we want with sound is the opposite. We want a quiet room that absorbs sound where there's a single source of sound. Even tiny sources of sound like air vents, clocks, computer sounds, etc. can be significant. The rule of thumb is whatever's closest to the microphone gets dibs on the microphone's attention. So try to remove as many distractive noises as possible. Think about your email and your phone pings, your street noises, toilet flushes, etc. So in terms of headsets, headsets are a technical ideal in terms of picking up sound and separating what's coming out of the speaker and what's going into the microphone, and that's totally fine. But weigh your ability to remove ambient noise with the quote-unquote mission control image you may be projecting with the headset and the microphone. If you're trying to develop a clinical report, a headset may not be great for your image. And it's definitely possible to get high-quality sound without resorting to a headset by following the other basic principles that we just mentioned. If you tend to be in a noisy place, there are a few good ways to diffuse sound. Add carpets or rugs to the floor, drapes or fabrics to the walls, bookshelves, large furniture like couches, etc. How you set up your camera and monitor is important for establishing your most flattering angles. We don't have to be the Kardashians, but let's try to get the right angles so that we're not looking up or down at our patients. This is also a really good way to maintain proper ergonomics throughout the day. I'm assuming that most of us are using a laptop or a desktop monitor with a webcam or a camera on top. Typically, we tend to set up monitors up high so we're looking up at them. We want to avoid doing this when video conferencing. We actually want monitors eye level or lower so that the person on the other side is looking down on you. Because what happens when the camera is up high is that throughout the course of the session, we tend to slouch or look down, and the other person then just starts to look at the top of your head. So in general, you want the camera to be as close as possible to the top of your monitor. And the top edge of the monitor should sit about the top of your head. That's what gives us the most natural angle. Definitely avoid side-to-side angles. So consider this when you're focusing attention. If you have double monitors, you want to make sure that you're looking at the primary monitor with the camera sitting on the top of that. In terms of how you frame yourself on the screen, you want the top of your head close to the top of the screen. It draws the audience in to engage with you. They can see your facial expressions better. It also draws the other person to look towards the top of the screen, which is typically where the camera may be. So it encourages them to look into the camera when talking. What about the rest of your body? Definitely you don't want to be just a talking head, so don't be too close to the camera. Too far and you lose connection. Consider framing yourself so shoulders and maybe even hand gestures can be seen on the camera. This will help you to build rapport. Also, if your camera has the ability to use the zoom feature, you can stay a healthy distance from the actual camera, which will let you lean forward without messing up the framing. Lastly, get or make, doesn't matter, a stand to maintain consistency. Trying to hold a laptop or a phone for an hour is not going to work. It'll be shaky, you'll cut in and out of the frame, and the angles will definitely be off. So just make yourself a little stand similar to what we saw on the previous slide. That's it for this presentation. Before we end, I just wanted to acknowledge that the content from this webcast comes from the Northwest Regional Telehealth Resource Center. They have a series of several dozen videos on the topic of telemental health, and I've tried my best to synthesize the information into this presentation for your benefit. But if you want to explore more, this is a really great place to start. And thank you to Cindy Burgess at How to Frame Your Webcam Like a Pro for the pictures in this presentation. Thank you and take care.